Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPa here again, and today I want to talk about Viessa in the First Descendant. I think she's already one of the more underrated characters. I wanted to go through her kit, talk about why I think she's underrated and where I think she shines. And yeah, I've been absolutely loving her. If you didn't know, the First Descendant is in beta right now until the 26th. I think there's Twitch drops still available if you want to check out the action. However, this is a new coming soon looter shooter that I'm very excited about. A lot of people will compare it to Destiny, but it's more similar to Warframe in how it handles a lot of its things, especially its characters. They are essentially similar to frames. You unlock the characters and you get to use them and build them as you'd like. Now, you start off with three different characters. You got Ajax, you got Viessa, and then you have Lepic. And now Viessa is essentially a mage character, I would say. If you're looking at it in terms of party, she's a ice based character who has, like all other characters, 3 usable skills and 1 passive. Now, her skills I think are more difficult to use than the other ones at times because of the range, and so you really have to understand how to use her in order to make her as effective as you'd like. So going through her skills, she's got Ice Sphere, which is her passive. She creates an ice sphere that orbits around her when an opponent receives Ice Shackle stage 2. So Ice Shackle is important. That's going to be the crux of her entire kit. You're going to want to definitely inflict the Ice Shackle on the enemies as often as possible. How do you do so? With her other abilities. She got Ice Beam. The character fires an ice projectile that deals 43% damage in a 3.5 meter radius and explosion damage, imposing the Ice Shackle effect on opponents. Now, this is important because the range is very short on this one. So, you have to play Viessa as like a close range character. Now, where she really shines is if you put her in a team with Ajax and you have him use his shield, but you're just diving in on enemies and using her abilities up close. This is very important because a lot of people I've seen, and I was guilty of it when I first started playing her, you'll use her abilities from too far away at first, and you won't hit anything, you'll barely do any damage, so you got to be really up close in order to use these. That's just something to keep in mind. She also has Frost Fog. She creates an ice fog around her, increases the character's speed by 30%, and her defense by 282. An opponent who enters the frozen ground will receive Ice Shackle effect. So, I've seen so many people say, I don't know how this works. It's basically a fog around her, but she increases her speed, so remember that. So there's 2 ways to take advantage of this. One is to pop it and then sprint forward at the enemies and past the enemies and freeze everybody in your wake. Another thing to do is if you have enemies charging you, say in a horde mode or a wave mode, and you're backing away and you use the frost fog, you'll leave the fog in your wake and they'll just run right into it, thus giving them the ice shackle, and yeah, your defense is increased. This one's important, especially for the defense increase and the movement speed, because it can get you out of trouble a lot, especially if you're surrounded by enemies. Then we got Ice Wave. The character attacks with an Ice Wave that has a range of 7.5 meters, dealing damage while applying Ice Shackle effect to opponents. Ice Wave is one of my favorites. It reminds me of a move from Outriders that I used to love. But I do think it's another one of those where the range might be, the cutoff is so stark that a lot of people might assume it's going to go farther than it is. So when you're playing her, you really got to get within that range and learn how far away it works in order to make her really, really effective. Otherwise, you're just going to be wasting her skills a lot. And that's something that I think a lot of people probably do, and why she can be a little bit finicky to use. Then you've got my favorite ability, one that is absolutely kind of busted, and that's Blizzard, a powerful attack that deals damage every 2 seconds, simultaneously inflicting Ice Shackle. So this one, you basically, as long as you can learn how to put it, because again, the game is in beta, so there's some technical issues, I think, that at times. So when you're putting down a skill, sometimes they don't always go where you'd like, which can be unfortunate. But this one, I think, is just more so like learning the range and where exactly from your crosshair it puts the Blizzard. And once you do that, I think it's so great. This ability is awesome. It can control ads. The best thing about Viessa, in my opinion, is that against shielded enemies, she'll also often use the ice shackle effect to freeze them, and then you can just go to the side and melt them. Whereas other characters have a much harder time flanking those tank characters and getting to be able to do damage and take them down quickly. So for her, no sweat at all, and that's one of the reasons, especially early on, that I've really enjoyed using her, because those shielded enemies are unable to touch me or get close to me before I'm able to freeze them and take them down really quickly. So that's just something to keep in mind. Her ice shackle is very good, especially in a team. This is a character who might be harder to play when you're solo at times if you are don't build her outright. Like, I think you can definitely make her a like tank mage where you beef up her defense and her hit points, and you allow her to get in close, and then you equip weapons like shotguns and SMGs to get really in there and do damage and freeze everything. She can be very, very powerful, and that's something that I'm looking forward to playing more as her, because I think her potential is very, very high. Now, like I said, I think she's underrated. I know some of the other unlockable characters are more wide receive. I think Bunny's probably the best character in the game, in my personal opinion. From what I've played so far, she's amazing. That being said, I think Viessa gets slept on because everyone likes to use Lepic as the big single target DPS user, and he's solid. He's actually very good. I think all the characters do a good job of being great in their roles, and that's something that I think people have to keep in mind, is that as you're going through this game, as you're taking on harder content, the game is built around multiplayer, so oftentimes you'll want DPS, you'll want debuff and ad clearing, you'll want defense for like Ajax. So it's just something to keep in mind, and you'll want to have a variety of characters you can use that are all built out and you understand how to use them. And that's something that, again, I'm hopeful that as we get into the full release, more people will look at VS and be like, okay, she's actually much better than I thought. But until then, I'll keep using her. I really enjoy rocking out with the Ice Queen herself. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more content from the First Descendant for me going forward. I am excited to cover this game. We don't have an official release date, but I've been absolutely loving the beta. Let me know in the comments down below, have you played the game? And what from everything you've seen with the game so far has you the most excited? My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.